The pair of canaries my husband keeps have flown away again. This time, the way he lured them back was with a signed divorce agreement. This game of chase has played out before my eyes countless times. I've cried, I've made scenes, and I've even tried running away from home like his canaries, but each time, he added more zeros to the checks he threw at me. Sebastian sneered, "Is this enough?" I calmly took the divorce papers and signed my name. Sebastian patted my head with satisfaction. "Good girl. It's just a fake divorce. I'll withdraw it before the cooling-off period ends. It would be best if you could understand. What man doesn't have the desire to conquer, especially when it comes to a pair of unattainable flowers? Once I have them, I'll come back to stay with you and live a good life." I didn't argue and picked up the check from the ground myself. He didn't know I wouldn't wait for him anymore. Hello, everyone, welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. Hello. The divorce registration has been recorded and will take effect in 1 month. I took the receipt handed to me by the staff. Sebastian immediately snatched it from my hands to take a photo. Then he stared at his phone with a silly grin, like a love-struck teenage boy. The young woman at the counter gave me a sympathetic look. To appease his pair of canaries, I've accompanied Sebastian in countless fake divorce performances. The staff all recognize me now. After a long while, Sebastian finally looked up, his face full of tenderness as he gazed at me, and took out a red velvet box. Displaying it before me, he asked, "Maggie, is it beautiful? Will Liz and Lena like it?" Inside were 2 exquisitely expensive rings. I nodded calmly, "It's beautiful." Subconsciously rubbing the ring finger, there was only a faint indentation left by a ring. A week ago, Liz and Lena, one hid in a fishing village to slit her wrists, the other flew abroad to overdose. Demanded that Sebastian propose to them, specifically requesting the same wedding ring design as the one Sebastian and I had when we married. That was a custom-made, one-of-a-kind ring he designed for me, the only pair in the world. He took the ring off while I was asleep, telling me it was sent for maintenance. I knew he had lied, and along with his own, he personally flushed it down the toilet, just to win a smile from the beauty. When getting in the car, he instinctively reached for my hand. The interior I designed for the car had been changed to pink. Seeing me stare in a daze, Sebastian hurriedly explained, "The 2 little girls are quite childish," insisting on changing the color. "I'll change it back later," I softly responded with an mmm. After the divorce, it was only natural for the wedding car to change its appearance. Whether it was the newly changed incense being too strong or the trunk filled with flowers, I couldn't help but sneeze a few times. Sebastian finally looked up from his phone. Noticing the rash on my neck, he frowned and said, "I forgot you're allergic to pollen." He then instructed the driver to head straight to the hospital, but while waiting at the traffic light, he received a phone call, and his expression immediately darkened. "Pull over." Sebastian looked at me. "Liz got a blister from boiling water. That girl cares the most about her looks, usually acts all aloof, but now she's crying and asking for me, rare for her. I need to go check on her." "Maggie, you'll have to go to the hospital by yourself." I was pushed out of the car by him, standing in front of the traffic, feeling somewhat lost. It wasn't until my phone buzzed with a notification confirming the successful purchase of a plane ticket that I snapped back to reality. I took a taxi to the hospital. The nurse seemed surprised to see me alone. "Your husband didn't accompany you this time?" she asked. "I have an allergic constitution, and even the slightest exposure to dust." Sebastian would nervously rush me to the hospital, without exception. He even postponed a shareholders meeting for me once. I shook my head with a smile. "He's busy." After the injection, there was a commotion at the nurse's station. "Help, that man is so handsome." Have you ever seen someone bring 99 roses to the hospital for their girlfriend, and carrying both the person and the flowers at the same time? Just a bit of skin redness from the heat. If they'd arrived any later, it would have almost healed on its own. My gaze drifted through the window, landing perfectly on that bouquet of vibrant red roses. The man was looking down, typing something. Ding. It was Sebastian's message. "Maggie, how are you? Feeling better?" Looking downstairs again, he had already put away his phone and was leading the girl away, fingers interlaced. The rings on them unexpectedly matched in dazzling harmony. I lowered my head and accepted 2 friend requests. The profile picture in Sebastian's recent change matched perfectly. Before this, his profile picture had always been me. The spirited young girl spoke bluntly, "Since you're already divorced from Sebastian, please move out by today and clean up the place." They didn't know that out of guilt, Sebastian had listed 80% of the assets in my name on the divorce agreement, including the villa we currently live in. I casually circled the terms on the agreement and sent it over. "You should have read the agreement." There was silence on the other end. But then a call came through. Maggie, what kind of wedding theme do you like? There wasn't much to take. Just about enough to fill one suitcase. When going downstairs, Sebastian was curled up on the couch at some point. I went straight to pour a glass of water, grabbed the stomach medicine, and walked over. But he suddenly stood up and slapped me hard across the face. Maggie, you've crossed the line. Who allowed you to show them our divorce agreement? I've explained to you countless times, they're just pastimes, they won't affect your status. Once I've had my fill, I'll naturally return to the family. What are you being so fussy about? With our status, who doesn't have a few romantic companions, even your dad? My eyes instantly reddened as I glared at him fiercely. His voice softened as he stepped forward to embrace me. Besides, all these years of marriage, I've only been devoted to you. Can't you feel my love for you? Be good, I promise you. After this, I'll spend my whole life devoted only to you. Back then, the Playboy Crown Prince pursued me relentlessly for 3 whole years. He swore I would be the only one in his life, vowed to protect me and my family with his life. I believed it. Now, I've grown numb to hearing the same words over and over again. When did trust completely erode? It was when the canary first disappeared, and he used my account to publicly declare his love in the company group chat to win them back, turning me into a laughingstock across the entire circle. The next day, I was surrounded by the media, left alone to face the flashing cameras, utterly at a loss. It was the anniversary when he left me for a high-altitude adventure in the name of love, leaving me alone to face accusations from his family for not caring about my husband's safety. It was the 101 unanswered distress calls I made while he was reveling at Disney with his canary. It was just because I shared the same blood type as his canary that he forced me to donate blood against my will, causing me to lose our barely formed child, only to blame me for not being able to keep the baby. It was the day before he handed me the divorce papers, when he diverted all the specialists to his canary, leaving my mother, my only companion, to die without medical help, her life ending in regret. My whole body trembled, the water soaking through my clothes. He still held me, his nose filled with a fragrance he had never been tainted by before, turning my face away. I noticed a string of numbers tattooed on his collarbone, the birthday of those canaries, and also the anniversary of my mother's death. Remembering my mother's last words before she passed, I subtly withdrew from his embrace. He shoved an 80 million check into my hand. They like this villa, you move out first. I took the check and softly said, okay, handed him the medicine in my hand. Sebastian warmed his gaze, about to take my hand. Maggie, at this moment, a series of agonizing screams came from outside the door. It was my dog. I rushed out in panic. I saw Liz and Lena violently kicking the dog lying on the ground, barely alive. I pushed the two away abruptly, unable to hold back my tears any longer. Gizmo, the little one was barely breathing, yet still struggled to wag its tail at me. Liz and Lena just stood by watching coldly. So it was your dog. We thought it was a stray that had wandered into our house. Why aren't you leaving yet? Sebastian didn't tell you. I stood up and slapped Liz hard across the face, and the next moment, a slap landed on my own face. Lena saw Sebastian and immediately teared up. Sebastian, she hit my sister. Sebastian stared blankly at his own palm, then looked at me guiltily. Maggie, I didn't mean to. Liz let out a disdainful snort. Is this the sincerity of President Webster's pursuit of us sisters, already divorced, yet still entangled with your ex-wife? If that's the case, then my sister and I really can't be with you. We come from respectable families and would never be homewreckers. As she spoke, she glanced pointedly at me. Unlike some people who cling on after divorce, is this what passes for dignity in your high society? Sebastian stiffened. Maggie, apologized to Liz and Lena. Snow suddenly began to fall from the sky as I tightly hugged Gizmo, whose body was gradually stiffening. With reddened eyes, I stubbornly met his gaze. They killed my dog. They killed the dog that had accompanied me for 15 years, the last memento my mother left me in this world. Sebastian flashed a look of heartache in his eyes, but Lena grabbed Liz's arm, saying, Sebastian, it was that beast who hurt sister first. My blood boiled. The dog is usually very gentle and would never attack anyone unprovoked. Sebastian immediately stepped forward to check Liz's hand. Does it hurt? Liz stubbornly turned her face away. What if it does? The real culprit won't be punished anyway, Sebastian said with a doting voice. My little princess, what do you want then? Liz glanced at me mischievously. Since your ex-wife empathizes so much with a beast, why not let her spend a good night in the dog cage? Sebastian agreed without hesitation. Fine, as long as Liz is happy, anything goes. Liz finally smiled, a smile so radiant that Sebastian was mesmerized, unable to tear his gaze away from her face for a long time. Then, Sebastian looked at me with disgust and ordered the bodyguard beside him. Do as Miss Liz said. The bodyguard hesitated, wanting to speak but holding back. But boss, it's -10 degrees outside at night, madam. Liz turned pale with anger and stormed off. Even the dogs you raise only listen to your ex-wife. How can I believe you'll treat my sister and me well in the future? Sebastian immediately chased after her, holding her gently to coax. All right, my little ancestor. We'll do everything as you say. Then he glared at the bodyguard. What are you waiting for? Get moving. I struggled violently, but was still shoved into the dog cage. Lena grabbed Gizmo by the tail, turned to Sebastian and cooed. Sebastian, what better way to celebrate my sister and I moving into our new home than a hot dog meat stew on such a cold day? I clutched the cage bars desperately. No, please, I beg you. Sebastian, don't treat Gizmo this way. I knelt in the cage, kowtowing over and over, but Sebastian only stared obsessively at Liz's face, holding her hand to his mouth, blowing warm air on it repeatedly to keep her warm. Without another glance at me, he wrapped his arm around Liz's waist, took Lena's hand, and walked into the villa. I called his name again and again, over and over, like the wailing of a wronged spirit in the dead of night. I don't remember when I passed out from the cold, but when I woke up, the aroma of hot pot wafted from the villa. A bowl of crushed bones was placed right in front of me. I clenched Gizmo's leash tightly, my nails digging deep into my palm. Sebastian, I will never, ever forgive you. Yet when I woke up the next day, he was there by my bedside, his eyes red. You're awake. Maggie, are you feeling unwell anywhere? Sebastian grabbed my hand, his face full of concern. I expressionlessly withdrew my hand, but he immediately grasped it again. Last night was your fault, it was just a dog. Go apologize to Liz later. That girl isn't petty, she'll forgive you. My heart had long been numb with pain, and I closed my eyes, unwilling to argue with him. Yet, to my surprise, he continued to chatter incessantly. I couldn't bear it any longer. Where is this place? Sebastian looked slightly uncomfortable. Liz has nyctophobia, and Lena prefers bright rooms, so the master bedroom and guest room are given to them. Maggie, you'll have to make do with the basement for now. Just as he finished speaking, a sudden ringtone broke the silence. Sebastian accidentally hit the speaker button in his fluster, and Lena's sweet voice came through. Sebastian, where have you gone? The wedding dress designer is here, come quickly. He looked somewhat flustered, giving me an awkward glance. Be good, I'm handling some work matters, I'll be right back. With that, he immediately hung up the phone. Maggie, you rest first. He stood up and hurried out, his steps so light and joyful, just like the day he married me, as if he had won a great victory. After an unknown amount of time, a sound came from outside the door. Liz and Lena walked in and mocked me as soon as they saw me. I didn't expect you to be so shameless, using the self-inflicted injury trick to stubbornly stay. Lena spat at me and said, ugh, what a cheap imitation. Back then, you even copied us by running away from home, a laughable attempt to mimic the real thing. Have some shame, you old hag. Know your place and get lost, otherwise. Liz walked up to me, looking at me mockingly. Maggie, you don't still think Sebastian has lingering feelings for you, do you? Shall we prove to you whether he cares more about us or you? With that, her eyes wild, she pulled out a bottle of gasoline. Frowning, I stepped around them. What do you want? Yet both of them seized me and set the gasoline on fire. Then call Sebastian and say, Sebastian, big brother, save us. We kindly came to visit Maggie's sister, but she's trying to burn us alive. Cough, cough. The flames leaped up instantly. I rushed to the door but was firmly dragged back by two people. The fire was about to spread onto me, and my nostrils were already filled with thick smoke. I struggled desperately to break free from them, soaked the curtains, and pressed them tightly against my nose. The next moment, the door was kicked open. Sebastian saw me and picked me up. Maggie, are you okay? At that moment, Liz and Lena's cries were heard. Help, Sebastian, big brother, save us. Sebastian immediately put me down, rushed to the two of them, and pulled them out. The tremendous impact tripped me to the ground. Lying prone, I looked up and shouted, Sebastian. The man who was rushing out the door suddenly turned back, only to be distracted by Liz's muffled groan. Liz, hold on, I'll get you out right away. He didn't glance at me again, leaving without looking back. As the flames engulfed me, I closed my eyes in despair. 3 days later, Sebastian got married to Liz and Lena in Bangladesh. The trio flew to Europe for their honeymoon. Sebastian accompanied them for a whole month. He posted a photo on his social media, a bedsheet with 2 bright red stains, flashing a victory sign. The comments were unanimously admiring. Living the dream, Mr. Sebastian is the man. Congratulations, Mr. Sebastian, you've won the beauty's heart. Yet Sebastian, leaning against the balcony smoking, felt no joy of conquest, only an inexplicable irritation growing in his heart. He kept refreshing the screen. After rescuing Liz and Lena from the fire that day, they tearfully claimed Maggie had intentionally set the fire to kill them. He had intended to go in and save Maggie, but stopped in his tracks because of the sisters' words. Before he could even have Liz and Lena, his efforts were nearly ruined by Maggie. This time, he had to teach her a lesson. He instructed the bodyguards to go in and rescue her after 5 minutes, then took Liz and Lena straight to the airport, thinking of finishing early so he could come back sooner to appease Maggie. Yet, over the past month, none of the messages he sent to Maggie had received any response. Sebastian's heart sank deeper and deeper. Unable to contain his impatience any longer, he returned to his room, grabbed his clothes, and stormed out the door. The sisters, still lost in the throes of their newfound passion, saw Sebastian's abrupt movement and frantically grabbed his hand. "Sebastian, where are you going?" Sebastian impatiently shook off their hands. "Back home." But when he returned, the scene before him nearly drove him mad. Sebastian stared blankly at everything in front of him. The basement had turned into a charred, blackened ruin. After a long silence, he furiously kicked the bodyguard in the stomach. "Maggie, where is she? Didn't I order you to save her?" The bodyguard lowered his head and answered shakily, "Boss, we don't know what happened either. The madam seemed to have vanished into thin air. The firefighters said they found no remains inside. We tried to report to you, but the signal just wouldn't connect. Before you left, you instructed us not to disturb you and the two Miss Liz. So we had no choice but to give up, planning to report to you upon your return." At that moment, the postman shouted outside, "Mr. Webster, there's mail for you." The bodyguard seemed to have found a lifeline. Quickly running to fetch the mail and respectfully handing it to Sebastian, Sebastian opened it with a cold expression, only to find it was a divorce certificate. Sebastian's fingers trembled uncontrollably as he muttered to himself, "I actually forgot to cancel it. Maggie will be heartbroken if she finds out." Then he comforted himself, "It's okay. As long as I find Maggie and coax her properly, we can just remarry." He took a deep look at the mess in the basement before turning back to the bedroom, only to discover that all traces of Maggie had vanished. With not a single sign of Maggie left in sight, the bed had been replaced with a princess bed, the curtains changed to pink, and even the floor mat was brand new. Sebastian suddenly erupted in fury. "Clear away all this junk. Where are Madam's belongings? Bring back all of Madam's things." The butler hurriedly approached Sebastian and reported, "Sir, on the day the two ladies moved in, they ordered us to throw away all of the Madam's belongings, claiming it was your instruction." Sebastian flew into a rage and punched the butler in the face. "Who told you to listen to them?" The butler lowered his head, not daring to respond. Sebastian took out his phone and refreshed it again, only to find that I still hadn't replied to his message. Every call I made went unanswered. Sebastian lowered his eyes, typing frantically in a fluster, "Maggie, I'm back. I thought I'd never play again. Please don't hide from me anymore, okay? I swear I'll only stay by your side from now on. Please come back." But this time, he found himself blocked. Sebastian angrily threw his phone to the ground and roared at the circle of bodyguards standing behind him, "Find her. I want to see Maggie within 3 days." Meanwhile, Todd was sitting by my bed, peeling an apple for me. "Feeling better today?" I nodded and said to him, "Thank you." He smiled and cut the apple into small slices for me. "No need to be so polite with me. We're getting married soon." I suddenly felt a bit embarrassed. Back then, Sebastian handed me the divorce papers, and my heart felt empty. Then my childhood neighbor, Todd, suddenly asked me how I'd been doing lately. Without a second thought, I asked him if he could marry me. Little did I know, the other person kept typing, and I immediately regretted it, just about to explain, but to my surprise, he only typed a few words. "I'm coming back to China right away to take you to meet my parents. They've missed you." At that time, I had Sebastian completely given up on. It might be better to marry someone else, so I wouldn't have to suffer his hurt anymore. I just never expected things to turn out that way later. If it weren't for Todd arriving in time, I might have died. Thinking back on everything I've been through, I clenched my fists tightly, my eyes burning with hatred. Suddenly grabbing Todd's wrist, I looked up into his eyes. "When are we getting married?" Todd chuckled and patted my head. "You're still as impatient as when you were a child. We'll get married after you've recovered. My parents have already prepared everything for the wedding, so don't worry about it." Just like that, I spent a full 3 months recuperating, Todd, before he finally let me leave the hospital. Even though I was carefully pampered, the burns inevitably left scars on my body. Todd noticed me staring blankly at the scar and gently comforted me. Don't worry, I've found the most authoritative scar removal specialist for you. With gradual treatment, there won't be any scars left in the future. I shook my head. I want to keep it. Only by keeping this scar can I remember Sebastian and the two sisters' harm to me. I looked up and asked Todd, would you mind it? Todd bent down and gently kissed my scar, then looked at me with a smile. Of course not. Crash. Sebastian frantically swept the teacup off the table, sending it shattering to the floor in a loud clatter. What did you say? Maggie's mother is dead. The bodyguard handed the death certificate to Sebastian. Yes. The madam's mother passed away a month ago. The madam personally handled the funeral arrangements. Sebastian was in disbelief, repeatedly examining the death certificate. How is this possible? Why didn't I know anything about it? Why didn't Maggie tell me? The bodyguard glanced up at Sebastian, hesitating for a moment before speaking. On the day the madam's mother passed away, you were accompanying the two misses for their birthday. Later, Liz got burned by fireworks, and you were busy taking her to the hospital, even gathering all the specialists for a consultation. The lady's mother passed away because she didn't receive timely emergency treatment. We checked the lady's call records, both incoming and outgoing. She tried calling you repeatedly at that time, but you kept hanging up on her. Sebastian staggered unsteadily, nearly collapsing as he momentarily lost his footing. The bodyguard swiftly steadied him and continued. The lady's mother had been relying on our corporation's specialized medication to sustain her life all these years, ever since you prioritized allocating the medication to Miss Liz's father for treatment. The lady's mother has gone nearly half a year without receiving the life-saving drugs to alleviate her condition. Hearing this, Sebastian's heart was pounding wildly, his voice trembling. He asked, still no news of her? The bodyguard replied. We've dispatched more people to search, but there's truly no news of Madam. All we know is that a helicopter appeared near our villa at the time, but the night was too dark, and we were preoccupied with putting out the fire. So we didn't pay attention. At this moment, Liz and Lena walked in laden with bags, unmistakably carrying themselves like two noble society ladies. They strutted over in high heels, swaying their slender waists as they approached Sebastian. Each took a seat on either side of him, pressing close. Sebastian, what's going on with you? How could you leave us abroad and come back alone? Do you have any idea how scared we were? You have no idea how many difficulties we encountered on our way back to the country. If it weren't for constantly thinking of you, we would have almost given up. Sebastian coldly eyed the luxury goods they had purchased, indifferently. He signed a check and threw it in their faces. Get out. Both of them were stunned, staring in shock at Sebastian. Sebastian, brother, what do you mean by this? Sebastian looked at their identical faces and felt nothing but annoyance. Now his heart belonged only to his Maggie, and he missed her terribly. He wanted to see Maggie's smile, want to see Maggie playing happily with the puppy in the yard. At this thought, he suddenly remembered that the dog had already been eaten by them. Growing increasingly impatient with the sisters, he curled his lips and said, Don't you know exactly what I mean? Stop pretending. You clearly want to latch onto me, yet you're deliberately stringing me along. Now that I've given you what you wanted, you can get lost. Don't ever appear before me again. I don't want Maggie to be unhappy. Liz stood up in disbelief, staring at Sebastian. Sebastian, didn't you say you loved us? Haven't you already divorced Maggie? Why are you driving us away? Did Maggie say something to you? Did she threaten you with something? The next moment, Liz felt a sharp sting of pain on her face. Sebastian slowly rubbed his wrist, his eyes icy cold. I told you to get out. Can't you understand? You're just a cheap pastime I chased out of boredom. Did you really think you were some noble lady? He then signaled to the bodyguard behind him, who immediately stepped forward and dragged the two out. Throwing them through the door, two sisters banged on the door like mad women. Sebastian, big brother, do you have some misunderstanding about us? Let us in quickly, don't abandon us. Sebastian's impatience between his brows grew almost deeper as he ordered the bodyguards to pack up all of Liz and Lena's belongings and throw them out the door, then restore the bedroom to its original state. It's just a pity that many of those things can no longer be bought. Sebastian looked at the empty house, his heart burning with anxiety, and commanded the bodyguards, Go find me a dog. The bodyguard was somewhat puzzled. Sebastian snapped angrily. I told you to find a dog. Can't you understand human speech? Find a puppy that looks exactly like the one Madam used to raise, and get it done right now. The bodyguard immediately complied and walked out. At that moment, the butler respectfully presented an invitation to Sebastian. Sir, the Valentine family of City B is celebrating their patriarch's wedding and has specially sent an invitation for you to attend the banquet. Sebastian took the invitation and frowned. City B's richest man, Todd, as he spoke. He casually opened the invitation, and his breath caught sharply when he saw the bride's name. His fingers trembled as he checked it over and over again. Was this sent by the Valentine family? The butler nodded. Yes, Sebastian swallowed nervously. His face pale. Why would the bride be Maggie? Could it be someone with the same name? The butler was also somewhat puzzled, furrowing his brows as he guessed, it probably isn't the same person. I heard the Valentine family holds their daughter-in-law in high regard. Madame's background. Hearing the butler's words, Sebastian immediately felt relieved. Right, it couldn't be Maggie. The Valentine family is the wealthiest in City B. And Maggie's background would never be enough to reach the Valentine status. He tossed the invitation back to the butler. Prepare an extravagant gift for me. After all, it's the Valentine family, we can't afford to slight them. Immersive translate. I traced my fingers over the gilded invitation. Todd was busy with wedding preparations. My thoughts drifted back to childhood, the year the Valentines moved away. I was only 6, crying as I chased after their car, shouting, Todd. After running for a long time, Todd got out of the car and ran towards me. He carried me back, comforting me as we walked. Maggie, be good. Big brother will come back for you later. Okay, wait for me. All right. In the same year, my father secretly kept a mistress behind my mother's back. For the sake of his mistress, he hardly ever came home. He even forced my mother to divorce and drove both her and me out of the house. That day, we became the laughingstock of the entire social circle. Back then, my mother defied my grandparents' objections and was willing to sever ties with her own family just to marry my father. Later, when we were driven out, she couldn't even return to her parents' home. My mother raised me alone, and life was very difficult. Then, when I was 18, we met Sebastian, who insisted that my mother become his piano teacher. Our lives became slightly better after that. My mother fell seriously ill due to my father's betrayal and the heavy burden of life, but Sebastian ran around tirelessly for us, even bringing in a top international medical team to develop special medication for her. For a long time, I kept Sebastian's love hidden in my heart, not daring to accept his feelings. He pursued me for a full 3 years before I finally relented. The moment I agreed, he hugged me and spun around excitedly, overjoyed like a child. Thud, thud. The makeup artist walked in. Mrs. Maggie, it's time to change into your wedding dress. The moment I put on the wedding dress, a butterfly landed on my shoulder. My eyes instantly welled up with tears. Mom, is that you? Todd appeared behind me at some point, gently holding my hand. It's your mom. She came especially to bless us. Then he sincerely said to the butterfly, Don't worry, Mom, I'll take good care of Maggie. After speaking, the butterfly circled around us several times before finally flying out the window. With tear-filled eyes, I watched the butterfly fly farther and farther away. Todd patted me on the shoulder. You've cried all your makeup off, looking like a little calico cat. Hurry and let the makeup artist touch you up. The guests have almost all arrived. My voice trembled. Has that person arrived? Todd's face darkened as he nodded. Maggie, he hesitated, holding back his words. I interrupted him. Todd, I need to settle this score myself. He smiled with relief. I know. I just worry you might get hurt. The moment Todd walked in arm, Sebastian from the guest seats abruptly stood up. Maggie, how could it be you? He rushed to me and tried to grab my hand. You're my wife. How can you marry someone else? Did he force you? Come with me. I chuckled lightly and withdrew my hand from his grasp. Mr. Sebastian, long time no see. Sebastian widened his eyes. What did you just call me? I repeated with a smile. Mr. Sebastian. Before he could speak, I sarcastically remarked, Mr. Sebastian, newlywed with 2 beauties by your side. Must be truly honored to spare time from your busy schedule to attend mine and Aaron's wedding. Todd stepped protectively in front of me and said calmly, Mr. Webster, please step aside, our wedding ceremony is about to begin, soon. Todd's bodyguards promptly escorted Sebastian away. Sebastian kept staring at me, murmuring, Maggie, Maggie, it was just a fake marriage, how could you marry someone else? I sneered. Wasn't the divorce agreement signed by Mr. Sebastian himself? I presume Mr. Sebastian has already received the divorce certificate. There's been no connection between us for a long time, and if there is any, it's a relationship of life and death. Sebastian, don't be so arrogant. Am I not allowed to marry someone else besides you? Sebastian struggled violently against the bodyguards, trying to rush onto the stage. At that moment, Mr. Webster and Mrs. Webster suddenly appeared and held him back. Sebastian, you can't cause trouble. This is the Valentine family's wedding banquet. We'll discuss this in detail after it's over. The Valentine family is not someone we can afford to offend, just like that. Sebastian could only watch helplessly as I said, I do. Watching as I placed the ring on Todd's hand. Watching me and Todd kissing on stage. He was so anxious his eyes turned red, yet my heart felt utterly exhilarated. Not enough, far from enough. After the wedding, Todd planned a 6-month honeymoon trip for me. I felt a bit helpless. Others usually take 1 month, yet he arranged for half a year. Todd smiled calmly. I just wanted to take you out to relax. Haven't you always wanted to travel? My eyes instantly welled up with tears. When Mother was still alive, she always worried about me, telling me not to stay cooped up in the Webster household, tirelessly urging me to go out for a walk. But Sebastian was always so busy, I couldn't bear to part with him, nor could I let go of Mother. While meticulously managing the Webster household and being Mrs. Webster, I had already abandoned my former dreams. Now Todd actually remembers my childhood wish. My silent heart suddenly began to beat. I took his hand and said, "Thank you. Thank you for being willing to be my support." Todd gently touched my head and said, "I promised you before, it's my fault for being late and letting you suffer so much. I never expected that during our honeymoon, Sebastian would actually follow us. Every time, he would hold a bouquet of roses with their stamens carefully removed, waiting for me on my way back to the hotel with exquisite gifts. Whenever he saw me, his eyes would always redden first. Maggie, I was wrong. Can you come back to me? I've really missed you during this time you've been away from me, Maggie. I promise I'll never do anything to hurt you like that again. I've already kicked out Liz and Lena. Please come back to me. I can't live without you." I let out a mocking laugh, stepped closer to him, and whispered in his ear, "Do you know what my mother said to me right before she died? She said she would never be a burden to me again, and she wanted me to leave you to pursue my own happiness, Sebastian. I stopped loving you the moment you fell for those canaries. The only reason I stayed by your side was to keep my mother alive. You killed my mother. You're the one who pushed me away, my room, our children, my dog. Everything I cared about. You destroyed it all for Liz and Lena. Do you really think I'd come back to you?" Sebastian turned pale and kept shaking his head. "No, I never meant for Mom to die." With reddened eyes, I screamed at him, "Don't you dare call her Mom." As I spoke, I rolled up my sleeve to reveal the hideous scar. "If my mother knew I married such a beast who almost killed me, she would never let you off." Sebastian couldn't bring himself to look at my scar and took several steps back. "I'm sorry. I told the bodyguards to go in and save you. I didn't know you would get hurt." I curled my lips. "Sebastian, sorry is useless. I'll settle every single debt of your harm to me one by one." Since that day, Sebastian never dared to speak to me again, just silently following me and Todd every day. Todd sometimes couldn't take it anymore and would have his bodyguards teach him a lesson, but Sebastian seemed like a lost soul, letting the fists land on him without resistance. Then he would stumble to me in despair. "Maggie, does this make you feel better?" I grabbed Todd and turned to leave, not bothering to engage with him. After the honeymoon, I officially became the marketing director of the corporation. There was no other purpose. Just fiercely competing to seize the Webster family's market share nationwide. I would snatch up any project Sebastian was involved in. In just 3 months, the Webster family lost dozens of business deals to me. Meanwhile, Sebastian was tied up by Liz and Lena, leaving him no time to attend to company matters. The Webster family's financial situation continued to deteriorate. Mr. Webster and Mrs. Webster couldn't hold on any longer and personally came to the corporation to see me. The two who once looked down on me are now groveling at my feet. "Maggie, after all, we were once family. Sebastian just made a mistake that any man could make. He truly loves you. Please show mercy to our Webster family and stop crushing us." I scoffed. "Mr. Webster, Mrs. Webster, business doesn't operate on sentiment. When I married into the Webster family, didn't you say exactly this when presenting me with the voluntary asset waiver agreement? You are business people. And now I am too. I presume you, as experienced individuals, can understand me, right?" Mr. Webster and Mrs. Webster left in disgrace. I didn't stop there. Taking advantage of the Webster family's plummeting stock prices, I continued buying Webster family shares until Sebastian presided over the shareholders' meeting. The person sitting across from him was me. He stared at me blankly, even forgetting to speak, while Liz and Lena sat on either side of him, glaring at me with venom. My gaze swept over Lena's slightly protruding belly, and I sneered. Sebastian continued staring at me for a long time without speaking. I coolly reminded, "Mr. Sebastian, please report on the Webster family's current cash flow situation." He pursed his lips, and under the watchful eyes of the other shareholders, he finally averted his gaze from my face. After the shareholders' meeting ended, Sebastian grabbed me and said, "Maggie, can I take you out for dinner?" afraid I might refuse. He quickly added, "That restaurant you love just added new dishes to their menu." Behind him, Lena suddenly shouted, "Ouch, Sebastian brother, my stomach hurts." Sebastian turned around impatiently and slapped her. "If your stomach hurts, go see a doctor." "What good am I?" Lena said pitifully. "I think I'm about to give birth." "Sebastian, can you accompany me to the hospital?" Liz glared at me fiercely the whole time. "Who would have thought you'd be so lucky, after divorcing Sebastian? You still managed to remarry the richest man in City B. It seems our tactics as golden canaries are no match for the seemingly indifferent yet shrewd Mrs. I forced a smile and said to Sebastian, "You could treat me to dinner, but I have one condition." Sebastian eagerly responded, "Name it, I'll agree to any condition." I pointed at Liz. "I want her to serve tea and water by my side." Liz immediately screamed, "No way, who do you think you are, ordering me around?" Sebastian slapped Liz across the face again. "Who do you think you are, who allowed you to speak to Maggie like that? You two are nothing but playthings to me. Don't think just because Maggie isn't by my side, you can take her place, in this lifetime. I only recognize Maggie as my wife." When Sebastian and I arrived at the restaurant, Todd was already waiting there. He smiled and stepped forward to take my hand. "Are you tired today?" I shook my head and hugged him. "Not tired." He skillfully pulled out the chair for me. Sebastian followed behind with a grim expression, looking at me bitterly. "I thought you'd have dinner with me alone." I raised an eyebrow. "I'm a married woman, how could I lack such boundaries as to dine alone with a man?" Sebastian immediately fell silent, knowing full well I was mocking him. Just as we picked up our chopsticks, Lena suddenly clutched her stomach. "Sebastian, I'm going into labor." Sebastian turned pale with rage. Throwing the dish at Lena, "You heavily pregnant woman, why couldn't you just stay home instead of following me around?" Liz teared up beside them. "My sister is carrying your child. How can you be so heartless?" Sebastian pushed her away angrily. "Get out." Then he turned to me. "Ignore them. Let's continue our meal, /span." I raised an eyebrow and called the waiter. "Please call an ambulance for this pregnant woman, /span." At that moment, Sebastian answered a phone call. Mr. Webster's cursing voice came through. "Sebastian, there should be limits to your recklessness. If anything happens to the baby in Lena's womb, you can forget about being the CEO of the Webster family." I looked at him with a half-smile as he hung up the phone. Just as the ambulance arrived, he stood up gloomily. "Maggie, I'll treat you to dinner another day." With that, he dragged Lena outside. The blood beneath her flowed all along the way. I watched this farce with great composure, finding the dishes before me quite delicious. Suddenly, I retched, dazedly meeting Todd's gaze. He immediately stood up excitedly. "Pregnant?" I shook my head. "I don't know. My periods have always been irregular. Otherwise I wouldn't have been completely unaware of the last pregnancy." Sebastian drew 10 tubes of blood from me, and I passed out. When I woke up, the doctor told me I was pregnant but had lost the baby. Todd immediately scooped me up in his arms. "To the hospital, congratulations, sir and madam, your family will soon welcome a new member." Todd excitedly lifted me up and spun me around, but quickly restrained himself and set me down gently. He kissed my hand with deep affection. "Maggie, I'm so happy." At that moment, Sebastian appeared behind us at some point, looking at me in despair. "Maggie." The nurse anxiously pulled at him. "Mr. Webster, what are you doing here? The mother is hemorrhaging and needs your signature." He was dragged back by the nurse again. A day later, we learned that Lena had given birth to twin daughters. Mr. Webster, Mrs. Webster just glanced and left, even dragging Sebastian along. "We've found you a girl from a good family, go and see her." Liz and Lena went crazy, clinging to Sebastian. "Sebastian brother, you can't abandon us." Mr. Webster, Mrs. Webster grew furious, shouting at the bodyguards behind them. "Throw these two little sluts into the slums. What terrible luck. Ever since you two sluts appeared, our Sebastian has become like this, nearly causing our Webster family to go bankrupt." More than half a year later, I gave birth to a daughter. The Valentine family was so overjoyed they didn't sleep all night. The next day, they specially sent out birth announcements to proclaim to the world the Valentine family's joyous arrival of a baby granddaughter. Todd guarded his daughter like the apple of his eye. The grandparents had only held her for a short while before he snatched her back. At the full moon celebration, he proudly showed off his daughter to everyone. I kept smiling at him, when suddenly I felt a gaze fixed intently on me from behind. Turning my head, I saw Sebastian. He no longer looked as spirited as before, appearing much more haggard. Beside him stood a radiant woman. I knew she was a princess 10 years his senior, Marcia. The Webster family could only sustain itself through marriage alliances because Sebastian mismanaged their affairs. So Sebastian was pushed by his parents to marry Marcia, a thrice-married woman with 2 children. Marcia looked at me without hostility, smiling as she approached to greet me. "You're Sebastian's ex-wife. You look quite pretty, but you're too soft-hearted. They're just 2 canaries. I'd throw them into the red light district, and they'd behave." Sebastian turned pale, murmuring my name. I turned my head and took Todd's daughter from his arms, gently soothing her. Then, smiling at Marcia, I said, "Enjoy your meal, I'll take the baby to feed her." After that, Todd put his arms around both of us, mother and daughter, and we left. After that, I didn't hear any news about Sebastian for a long time. The only time was seeing on the TV news, Sebastian being hospitalized due to a marital fight, but I had no interest at all and immediately changed the channel. Back in the room, I saw Todd gazing tenderly at our daughter in the cradle, warming my heart. I walked over and hugged Todd, gently touching our daughter's little face. The turbulence of the first half of my life had already been filled with happiness.